you click that? There we go. You're live.
Oh my goodness. Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing my screen now.
Was it a boomer moment?
Probably.
Let's see.
I don't know if it's
It should take a second, I think.
up there. There it goes. Amazing.
Is it doing it?
I started seeing it. It's got a little bit of a lag.
Can anybody see us? I may be on the wrong thing, is why.
Maybe.
Well, you let me know if they say they can see us. It's not you. It's me too. So this isn't like
it is.
There we are. Okay, we're live, guys. We're live. We're here. Okay, it's happening. I double checked. We are live. We are here. There's a bottle of ketchup behind me, which means it is time to catch up with Rae and Chls. Hopefully I'm saying this and you actually can see me. If you can't, sucks to be you, because, yeah.
I think
we only owe you how much money per minute we're late?
Right.
It's only 12.
How many dollars was it? It's about $12. So, you know,
$6 a person. I can afford that, I think.
I think so too. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm willing to send Mike back
the
Patreon.
You're lucky we made it at all.
Like, I woke up
and don't get it
7 this morning in anticipation.
We rehearsed yesterday.
Yeah.
We got up early.
Yeah.
We did the things, and here we are. Only 12 minutes late, so welcome.
Only.
Oh, that's pretty good, actually. I'd say. Anyway, let me make sure. I know I'm recording my stuff, but I am recording. We are recording. Welcome, everyone, once again to Catch Up with Rae and Chls, where we are here to relish in a conversation with our favorite superstar, Rae, not Leah. I am your host, Chls. I am a longtime friend of our friend here, Rae. I'm a queer fiber artist. I mostly crochet, but I've dabbled in some other fun fiber-related things and plan on doing more. I'm also starting a community for queer fiber artists to come together. So if you are interested in either seeing my art or joining our community, you can find it at onionchampion.com. I am Onion, and that's me. So yeah, I'm also a full-time funeral director and cat parent. So that's me. That's all you need to know about me. I'll try to make this not about me because it's literally about you, but...
No, I wanted that intro. I demanded that intro.
I wrote it. I typed it out even.
You did a great job. I'm so glad.
So to get started, what we're doing here today is we're sitting down with Rae. The goal here is to just have a nice little conversation interview thing, catch up with them, see what they've been up to, what they're doing next, and I'm very, very excited for this.
Yes, we've been amping this up for the last week. Like, it's been super fun, just like figuring out what kind of questions, because you've known me for a really long time, since before I started doing my music career. And you were there from the very beginning, like going to open mics and listening to like every new song that I came up with, good or bad. So yeah, you've been there from like the very beginning, and I'm excited to see how this goes, the questions that you've got set up.
Yes, I'm excited too. It's been quite a journey, and it's just really exciting. I was telling them before, I was like, I love the fact that I was writing questions that half of them I already knew the answer to, but
yeah.
I was like, oh, I want to ask them this, so they can tell people, it's really fun. So, well, I guess to get started, for those of you who are new or maybe don't know who Rae is, could you give us a brief introduction of who you are, what you're about, and yeah.
Absolutely. My name is Rae. I go under the name Rae, not Lydia, as opposed to Rae Lydia, which used to be my artist name in the past. And I am a queer musician, writer, artist, cat dad. That is basically a great expanse of like all of the things that I do. So
awesome. Very of all aspects of life. Can you tell us maybe just a brief overview of, here, let's see, where did you start your career? Where are you now? Just to give people kind of like a idea, you know?
Totally. I've been writing music for a really long time, but I only made it a career 2014-ish. I graduated from college with my biomedical science degree, and the next choices were, go back to academia and continue studies so that I could be like a doctor or a physician's assistant or some kind of biomedical engineer. And I looked at all of those things and I went, I don't actually want to do any of those things. The death of my brother really sparked that in me. I realized that life is very, very short and we only have so much time to do the things that we can, really, and that I'd been given a gift with music and that I wanted to share it. So 2014 was when I really started in earnest writing music, working to record my very first EP called Gravitas, going to different, that took me like 2.5 years to record, going from home studio to home studio and getting it compiled. And I spent a lot of time at open mics, honing my craft and performing and getting used to being up in front of people, and just writing more and more music. That's where it all started. Yeah.
That's awesome. Awesome. It's been a long journey for sure.
Oh yeah.
So I promised some warm-up questions for you after our little intros.
Mm-hmm.
Just not stupid, fun questions. Okay, this is the first one for you. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Shape-shifting.
Yes. Yes. Okay, this is part B of that question.
Okay.
What is your actual superpower that you have right now?
My actual superpower, I would say, is, I wouldn't call it mind reading, but like emotion reading in people. I'm really, really good at deciphering what someone is meaning versus what they're saying and what the emotional core is at what they're saying, like why they're saying it.
Yes.
So I would say that's like my actual superpower.
That's a good one. Helpful for everyone, actually.
It's definitely been helpful.
And then, this one's a little harder. Doesn't have to be serious, or it can be serious, it can be funny. What is something that you believe or think that almost nobody agrees with you? I know, that's a hard one. Monster. I think banana, peanut butter, and mayonnaise sandwiches are delicious.
You are like the second person. No, Jessica's like, if you dip a banana in pizza sauce, it's delicious. And I've never tried this. Jessica's my partner for everybody out there. I've never tried this. I was like, what? I'm willing to try it once, but I doubt that's going to become a favorite snack,
sounds terrible.
I would say, because there's like a lot of things that I believe that are also shared with others. I would say one of the ones that's probably the most controversial is that, I mean, I guess maybe controversial. There's no way of proving this one way or another, but that I believe that grief is just an extension of love. Like, that it's just the same emotion, but like over a period of time.
I agree with you. That's so funny. I've never phrased it that way, but I've said that, something very similar about the amount of grief and the amount of love you feel can be very similar.
Absolutely. You really only grieve someone that you have felt strong feelings for. So, or something. It's kind of event or something.
Like a band. Once a band breaks up and you have like a complete meltdown. I've done that before.
I know who you're talking about. Damn you, bright eyes. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's get over to some more other cool, relevant questions. So this is another kind of fun one, but still, if you could open for any artist, any musician, who would you open for?
It would be a dream come true if Hayley Williams ever asked me to open for her and her solo work. I have loved her for a very long time, since we were both teenagers, and I think it would be a dream come true if she was ever like, I want you to open for my music. I would just die right there on the spot. Like, it would be incredible.
Pass out.
I would pass out twice in a row.
Pass out, jump up, say yes, please, and then pass out again.
Exactly. Just like that. Just like that. And then I'd be like, wait, have you got Phoebe Bridgers on the line too? And she'd be like, of course.
Oh, so the dream.
The dream lineup.
Hey, I think...
Could you say that again? My internet.
So I do have a question. Oh, you're good. You're good. I said they would be blessed to have you.
Thank you.
So I'm biased, I guess.
Just a little.
Can you tell us a little bit? I know you mentioned how you kind of started getting into the world of playing music and performing and being an artist. Can you tell us a little bit more on how you learned to play music and maybe to write music?
Yes. I was singing before I was really like speaking full sentences. So that's something that I think a lot of us are born with, is just like the innate funness of making sounds, and putting them together and seeing what sounds fun and what sounds good. I grew up a lot with music. Both of my parents are guitar players. My mom is a piano player as well, and a singer. And so, I grew up just like listening to a lot of music, playing a lot of we had a basket full of like kazoos and like hand instruments and things like that, my brother and I. So growing up around all that instrumentation was really beneficial. And I first started playing piano, taking piano lessons when I was 4 or 5 years old. And then from there I moved on to violin, and from there I moved on to guitar, and that guitar stole my heart for a really long time, until I picked up ukulele, and then I was like, oh, but it's lighter and tiny. So, yeah, I've been playing music for a really long time. I've been singing and making songs up for a really long time, but they didn't really coincide until I was about 13 years old.
Once you were a teenager, it's like, okay, time to get broody.
Oh, yeah. Like, it was definitely the brooding, the pining, you know, that pining that you do when you're a teenager and you're not even necessarily sure what you're pining for, more of an idea than a person.
I'm sad about the idea of being sad.
Right? Why does sadness have to happen?
Do you remember what the first song you learned to play on guitar is?
I remember one of the first songs that I played on guitar. One of them was Daisy, like Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer, do you know? Um, but like one of the first songs that I can remember to this day, because it's not like I really retained that one, was Dust in the Wind by Kansas. Yeah, my dad was like, it's this way. And then I stole his guitar for like a really long time and learned how to do it. And I was like, no, Dad, actually, it's this way. And he was like, okay, I want my guitar back and I'm getting you your own so that you can leave mine alone. And that's the blue one back here, actually.
Oh, I love, how cool. I love being able to see your little studio setup.
Microphone up here, second guitar over here, traveling guitar. It's much lighter. And this is my first one, the Dean.
Awesome. How cool. Little collection.
Little collection. My Logitech is like zooming in and out, like,
I know, I love it. We've got so much going on. I've got Ketchup, you've got zooming in and out. It's like
we're almost
streaming,
professional.
We're recording. I know, we're so cool. So when it comes to like writing music, once again, how would you say you write your songs? How long does it take you? What's your overall creative process there?
Yeah, writing music has always come to me like really emotionally in the past. So I'll have like a really strong emotion about something or like an event or a person, and from there I'll just sort of get like the first couple lines running through my head, and it's like if I don't get those down, I lose it. So I learned that like if I get those like first couple of lines in my head, I have to catch it while I hear it and write it down, and from there it just kind of flows like based on it's almost like writing poetry in that way. But I'll just have like that through line of music running through my head. As I've gotten older, I've tried to like hone my craft a bit more, so I'll just like start playing around on the guitar or the ukulele, and try to see what sounds cool together. And then from there, sort of like create like a conceptual piece, like with lyrics, or to try to tell a story. But for the most part, most of my music comes from like literal inspiration from just a very intense emotion that I might feel.
Interesting. Yeah. So do you hear do you hear the music with the words as they come? Okay. So they already have. That's so cool. And that's so interesting.
It's so weird. I've heard about like other artists who also like they'll be driving and they'll get something like that in their heads and they have to like pull over and like get out a paper and pen or like their like little voice memo and record it down. Otherwise they lose it too. So I'm not alone.
Reading as a dream.
Yes, exactly. You got to get it down before you forget it. Just like a dream.
Cool. So I know you mentioned that, as you've been an artist longer and longer, you've been giving yourself those types of challenges with music, trying to do something a little more out of your realm. Sounds like you're pushing yourself a little more, just it's part of learning your craft, I guess. How do you think that you've changed as an artist over time?
Yeah, one of the biggest ways is that I've changed over time as an artist has been by intentionally putting bridges into my music where they didn't exist at all before. Um, a lot of my earlier stuff doesn't have any sort of bridge whatsoever. It's just like the same chord progression, the same melody or tune throughout. And then as I've gotten older, I've made it a concerted effort to flip some of the chords on their head, and like sort of consider to myself like what another aspect of the song is, or like what another piece of the puzzle, I guess, would be when writing that bridge. And it just gives like a different perspective to the song when sharing. So that's
Yeah,
definitely one way.
yeah, I think that's very interesting. Just it gives a new frame of reference for whatever you're doing. Is my headphones want to die on me? Let's see how long they last. Damn. It's always something, I'm telling you.
We try so hard.
We try so hard, everyone. I promise you. Can you tell me what your favorite part of being a musician is?
Yes, yes, yes. My favorite part of being a musician is connecting with people. Why is my camera doing that? Um, there's another person in the room, I guess. There's a ghost. One of my favorite reasons that I'm a musician is that I actively share my music is the way that it connects with others. Like when I get a message from someone, or if I've played a show and somebody comes up after the show and talks to me, um, or like if they've heard one of my musics and just like want to tell me in person, I usually hear like how that song has connected with that person and what sort of experience they had with it, what sort of experiences they have that it reminds them of. That to me is like the most important part of sharing my music, is getting to share that connection with another human being around the emotion that I made that song around. It's so cool.
Yeah, and being on like the other end is not the creator but like a listener. It's just it's nice to be able to almost share in that with the artist. Like you get one thing, pardon me, you get one thing out of it, and you know that I'm getting something maybe completely differently, but that's the point almost, which I think is really cool.
Oh, absolutely. Something that you said about how my music has changed over the years, in that it's becoming more of like um, an experience that I'm sharing rather than like an exact replica of what's going on, seems to make it like more of an art piece that can be shared based on like how you're viewing it versus like a tell by tale story.
Yeah, like a it's still like a glimpse at a moment, but it's a little more what are those stories where you're like choose your own adventure?
Yeah, kind of more like that.
Choose your own adventure music. Skip to song number. Uh, so what would you say, I know that you like to connect with people with your music, like you said, what are you trying to bring to people with your music?
Yeah, I'm trying to bring connection. I'm trying to open myself up to being vulnerable and being like showing a side of myself that I wouldn't necessarily otherwise show or share, in an effort to enable like connection with people who are listening to that music, so that they know that they're not alone, so that I also like it's also for me, I also so I can feel like I'm not alone when I get those messages from people, when I get those comments from people. um, yeah, it's literally to facilitate connection between human beings, because otherwise we have such a hard time opening up, I think.
Yeah, especially in this very individualized society, it's definitely a lot harder to seek out that community. So to just be able to find it in even just listening to a song and knowing that somebody else might be listening to the same song at the same time is like the coolest concept to me.
So true.
Yeah. What has been your favorite so far of your career? Your favorite moment?
Sorry, I just made myself smaller. I'm gonna do that again. Oh, I did just do that again. Okay.
We're boomers.
Yeah, we're literally boomering it up over here.
Yeah.
Okay. So what? Please rephrase the question.
Use it in a sentence, please. What has been your favorite, like, either moment or time in your career, or time as an artist up until now?
Yeah. I have two top favorites. Um, One of them is definitely like when everything came together to. Did your headphones die? Okay. So one of my top two favorite moments as a musician in my career, one of them was when it seemed like everybody was canceling on me, everything was going wrong, and it all ended up coming together for my music video Dead Inside. That just became like a really, it felt like a moment that I just had to run and catch, because so many things were going wrong and we just happened to get it in like right under the deadline sort of thing. But I would say that my absolute favorite moment in my music career was at the very beginning when I was just starting out and I kept seeing the same painting everywhere. It was like it was in the bathroom of the school of recording that I was at, with a friend. It was on a plate in another home studio that I was recording at. It was on a billboard in like a city that I was visiting. It was just showing up everywhere. And for me, that was just like, to me, it just felt like somebody or something just being like, keep going, like, just keep going. And I never really forgot about that.
Little, almost like little breadcrumbs leading you
Exactly.
along the way. I remember, yeah, you sending me that picture and being like, I saw it again. I keep seeing this. And I was like, what the fuck?
I know, like it just kept showing up. And sometimes it does to this day. It's not nearly the same level of intensity, like the same amount of frequency. But like I remember at that period of time, it was absolutely everywhere. And I was like, I took that as a sign.
Yeah, gotta run with it.
Gotta run with it.
But they're so hard to see. So it's nice when you're like, okay, so this is a sign. Yeah.
Okay, I hear you.
Yeah. So the next question, how would you say your queerness or being a queer individual impacts your art, how you make your art, or what you know, write about?
Yeah, I really wish cis people got this question, to be fair. Like, I really wish cis people were also asked this question, and then maybe they'd think about it. I'm gonna move this so that, okay. So basically, sorry, everybody. Now I'm in the Ketchup.
Yay!
The way that my queerness impacts my art, I would say it's been a difficult journey to show that side of myself, to feel comfortable, like sharing that some of my romantic, you know, people that I was singing about were not men, and sometimes like to try to explain, you know, that I'm not man or woman, that I'm in between, that I don't feel like a woman. For the most part, I think the way that it impacts my art is feeling othered, feeling outside of a lot of things. And I think the way that it impacts me as an artist is, I know for sure when I was living in Phoenix, I'm in Denver now. When I was living in Phoenix, there was, when I came out as non-binary, there were fewer opportunities for me after I came out as non-binary. And so like my revenue definitely dropped. But it also means that I feel like I can be closer to the people that I connect with my music, my fans, so to speak, my sunshines. I feel like I can be more myself with them, and I feel like they can be more themselves with me. There have been a lot of people who have come out to me since I came out as non-binary, as some form of, you know, genderqueer or, you know, sexuality queer. And I just love being the person that can be that lightning rod, can be someone that people go, oh, you can do that? um, and that to me is worth so much more than any of the shows that I wasn't allowed to play in or that I was like rejected from, is being able to literally connect with the sunshines who can now be more themselves with at least one other person.
Yeah, I think, you know, as queer and non-binary people, we're always desperately seeking out, you know, some way to feel like somewhere that we don't have to explain ourselves or be looked at. Just so to find that and to find, you know, like I know like when I find like a non-binary crocheter, I get like so excited because it's like, hey, like look at us doing our thing and just doing it. And it definitely encourages more people. I've seen people, you know, because of you become a little more comfortable with themselves and honest with themselves. And it's just, I think it's really cool that just by being yourself, you get to help other people be themselves.
Yeah, I find that really irreplaceable.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It's so
What a time!
exciting.
It's like what a time to be alive in a way.
Oh no, totally. I'm able to be who I am now because of where I am and because when I am. You know,
Yeah,
there's so many
and to be
things
able to be part of. We get to be part of making this time the way it is too. Yeah,
actively. It's really cool.
go us. Yeah, just so you all know, I did put a little note after this question. I put, I don't know, how does cisness impact art? Because yeah, I would like people to really ask that, because it's like, I don't know, think about that sometimes. Think about who are you and how does that impact things. Anyway, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That would be great. That would be great if it wasn't just queer people asked that question.
Yeah. Yeah. Another very similar question. Through the last few years, you've had a drastic change in mobility. As you know, as an artist, I know that has impacted you as somebody who, at least for quite some time, was performing on stage and maybe had a certain view of how things were going to go. Are you able to share with us, you know, your journey, how that's impacted your art, maybe what your plan is, and a message to other people who are dealing with a similar situation?
Yeah.
A lot of questions in one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's all good. Yeah. So my general story is that in about 2020, right? One of my bandmates got sick. I brought her some food and some, like, a toothbrush, because I know being sick, like, you want to change out your toothbrush, things like that. And I tried not to touch her, but like I must have gotten sick. I know a lot of people were getting sick around that time, and like we just thought it was like a winter cold. Um, and it wasn't until after Jessica and I decided to move to Denver during lockdown, when we were like, well, this is the key opportune moment now that she's going full-time remote work. And I was like, I'll just find work as an artist there. It wasn't until after we had moved that my body just decided to like stop working. I was diagnosed with POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, thanks to a very kind doctor who was able to get me on some medications and get me like close to normal. And for anybody who doesn't understand, POTS isn't a diagnosis. It's a collection of symptoms. It doesn't say like what caused it. It just says, yeah, you're experiencing these things. So, you know, she put me on a lot of beta blockers, and I'm also on a slew cocktail of drugs that sort of like help me stay alive and stay comfortable. But for the most part, like it knocked me on my ass. I wasn't able to stand for very long. My heart rate was, you know, going up to like 120 just standing. I wasn't able to stand very long in the kitchen. I wasn't able to stand very long in the bathroom. I was leaning on Jessica to get to the bathroom. And at that point, I was like, okay, like, this is really bad. We got me a cane. It's very designer friendly. It's very, very pretty. So I have a cane, and I have like another mobility aid that helps me get around on my really bad days. But on my really, really, really bad days, I can't get out of bed. Physically, the physical fatigue is exhausting. It's not even about depression, which I've had in the past. So it really made me come to terms with being disabled. I had already been disabled, but I wasn't really willing to accept that stigma. There's so much stigma associated with the word in terms of like mental health. But, you know, having to face the physical realities of not being able to go down the stairs was a very different kind of reality. And it was at that point that I was like, well, I guess I'm not touring anytime soon or performing anytime soon, because that requires physical stamina. And I was out of breath all the time too, so I was having a hard time singing. And it really changed everything.
Yeah, it's I personally noticed, like, I think I mentioned this to you before, there's in your music, I like all of the different parts, but I see a before and after. Before when you very first started, to after you came out as non-binary, to like before you started dealing with these mobility issues, to like now. And it's just, I like all of it, but it's just like, it's all the same person, but it's like different chapters of your life, and they are all distinctly different. And it's just interesting hearing how you've changed and grown. I mean, you're growing as a human being, and just becoming who you are more and more every day, which is very cool to see. Yeah, through the good shit and the bad shit, you're just becoming you. Huh.
Yeah, right? How fun is that? I'd say,
Yeah.
like, it's not as much as it's difficult to be disabled. The hardest part is probably just the lack of understanding that other people have around disability, and how it just like we were sort of talking about before, it gets individuated onto each individual to deal with, which is harder and harder the more challenges that person comes across. And so disability is not just, what physically is going on in the body or how like we move through life, but it's also like the systems that are in place that enable or disenable someone from being able to access that place. Or like, I just learned about something called the ugly laws, which just like I was today years old when I realized like why so many people don't go outside. It's been in the laws to allow people who are, unsightly or that make other people uncomfortable, like including racism, to be taken away to institutions or just killed outright, like by police.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've kind of blocked out disabled people from our view in general, in our society especially, but in the last 2 years, people who have already been locked away and told to just stay away have been told, well, just stay away more.
Right.
Rot alone more. And
yeah,
that's, it's makes it easier on us to just ignore people that we want to ignore, instead of really looking at them in the face and reckoning with the fact that we've abandoned a whole section of our community, essentially, like these fellow human beings that we've just abandoned and said, well, it's for your own good.
And it's not even, I mean, first of all, there is the idea that we like decide for disabled folks, like what is for our own good, or what is for their own good. But also it's like the things that disabled folks bring to the table is stuff that we still find very valuable in our society, and things that we actively need, and things that are not seen as valuable and not seen as actively needed. And that number of people is growing every day, thanks to COVID. So, yeah, at this point, like, I find myself very blessed to be in this disabled body because it means I get to be here. It means I get to exist. And it gives me a certain perspective that I didn't have before, that I literally didn't care to have before. So it took me like becoming physically disabled to go, okay, yes, this is a legit problem. And it's unfortunate that it took me that long.
Yeah. I definitely got it secondhand. It took me having a friend becoming disabled for me to really look at it. And it's just, I feel lucky anytime you like send me something new to look at in regards to that, because I'm, once you realize that there's a problem, you kind of have to do your best to, and I'm still, it's a long way to go for sure.
Absolutely. And we, like I said before, we keep individuating these problems onto individuals to do something about. And when it comes to like battling against these systems, it's unfair.
Yeah. And I know we have a lot of questions to get to still, but I did want to come back to one thing where you said about how, disabled people have a lot of things to bring to the table. One thing I've noticed is that if somebody is disabled, that's all they are. They can't possibly be an inventor or a thinker or somebody who can actually have an idea or concept or do something that can drastically change our entire world. It's just pigeonholed to being, you're a burden. So they're not even allowed to explore the possibility of contribution if we just don't even want to see you. I mean,
totally.
It's mind-blowing the amount of, if we just gave everybody a chance, how many more new ideas and how much further would we be as people if we just listened a little bit more.
Yeah, I would love to see that world.
Whole new world. Now, so kind of similar topic, but transitioning. And I do like how I'm like giving a play-by-play of what I'm doing with these questions. I'm like, here, I'm segueing right now.
It's not a bad way to do it, It's actually it's something that Twitch streamers do all the time, from what I've seen. So you're not alone.
Ooh, I could be a Twitch stream with a Ketchup background.
You could, indeed.
So yeah, your mobility has greatly impacted, a change in your art and how you perform your art. What avenues of art have you explored up until now? What are you exploring next? Where are you taking us next? What are you getting up to?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I wanted to address was that like I could try really hard to fit my disabled body into an abled world and continue to try to perform in areas that don't have like mask mandates, because currently like nobody that I've noticed is like paying attention to those masks anymore. And not just that, but like a lot of music venues don't have disability access. In a lot of them, they might say that they do, but like the bathroom might be upstairs or the stage might be upstairs, and it would take a lot of resources to do that. So instead, my plans are, and it's going to have to be long term because I'm disabled now and I have to like take that into consideration. But like I want to pivot to specifically doing like live music for people who can't be out in public, who can't be at a music venue. I want to like really dig into the disabled community and give us like the live music that we have deserved this entire time. And that I'm just now being able to like see and perform. So that's something that I want to do long term. What I'm currently working on is recording. recording music because I've been writing a lot more, as I've been reading a lot more, and doing a lot more introspection. I've been writing a lot more music, and one of the nice things about being stuck in my home is I can record it from here. It's pretty cool. So I'm currently working on Bubblegum Bubble, which was something that I put out on Patreon when I wrote it. And I'm currently working with a producer who reached out to me because I wrote something on Instagram about how being disabled had impacted me, and wanted to work with me at my own pace, which I think it has been such an amazing experience. Harley, if you're watching this, you're awesome. Harley Eblin. So Bubblegum Bubble is slated to come out at latest this autumn, like this October. And I've also got like an older single that I worked on in like 2019 that was supposed to come out in 2020 that another producer, ALS, is working on getting out there. It's like a combination audio visual kind of project. And the biggest thing that I've been working on that I'm really excited about is actually writing. I've been working on developing not just like my songwriting, but I've been developing short stories and poetry, and lately I've been working on getting them into contests. I just submitted my first short story to a contest, and I should hear back pretty soon how that went, but it's been published. Very exciting. It's called My Happily, and it was based off of the prompt, like, happily ever after. And it does have to do with, like, my experience and my disability and how that's changed my relationship with my wife, actually. And, obviously in a fantasy setting. A witch's curse. And something that I'm looking forward to is writing a novella for the first time. There's some ideas that I have going on in my head. Like my very first short story, called The White Dot, is a horror short story. And I find that horror has been like a really big comfort for me in the last few years. And so I've been incorporating that into my writing. I'm currently writing a horror short story that's going in for another competition to be submitted to a magazine for publication, hopefully a prize. We'll see how that goes. And the novella that I really want to work on is part of this, like, it's called The Right Practice, the WRITE, Right Practice. And there's this challenge called the 100-Day Book Challenge that I'm really looking forward to, and I really want to participate in. I've never written a long story book like this before, but I have these concepts. It's like a Body Snatchers type scenario meets my experience in the music scene when I was in Phoenix. So I'm really excited to get this idea out and onto paper, and to see who might be interested in, like, buying my works. I think it would be so great to have more non-binary representation out there in terms of writing. I want to, like, set the standard for what it looks like to write from a non-binary viewpoint when you don't know somebody's gender until you know who they are. And so, like, this is very ambitious, but, like, I think if anybody can do it, I can do it. And I've also noticed that there's a lot of horror that's Christian-based, and I want to bring my Jewish perspective to it as well. So there's a lot.
Queer Jewish horror.
Queer Jewish horror. That's what I want to bring out. Yeah, I'm obviously very excited about it. I, like, talked very, very fast through all of that. But, like, it's something that, like, I'm really passionate about, and like, really, really stoked for.
And I'm stoked to see it. When is it starting again?
It's starting in May. That's when the 100-day book challenge starts. So the book itself won't be done for like another 100 days. But the idea is to release every chapter sort of like in sequence, in segments. So I want to like write it along with my sunshine. So I want to like release each chapter as I write it and get feedback from my sunshines and see what y'all think and what it makes y'all feel and what you're excited for and what you're terrified of and all that good stuff. So that's going to be available via my Patreon as I'm doing that.
That's going to be really cool too, because like I know like Stephen King did that with the Green Mile, just releasing a part at a time. But this is even more interesting because as you're releasing it, you're inviting us to like react with you. So this is going to be like a really cool interactive experience. So I'm really excited to read it and let you know what characters I'm interested in, and as you're writing it, and to see how much, because as you're going to be releasing as you write it, like you are going to be changing as a writer throughout this whole process. So I'm excited to see where you start and where you end up. That's really cool.
Yes. It's going to be so much fun. I think something that stinks about Stephen King is that he wasn't able to interact with like his readers at the time. And something that's so cool about being in this like internet realm is that I can literally interact with my folks as I'm writing this stuff, as I'm releasing it. So that's the next project on the table.
That's so, I'm so excited to see how that goes, because even like you've told me a bit about it and I'm still like, I wonder how this is going to end up,
Right?
Because there's so many options there, for sure. What is like your goal for taking on this specific project, the 100-day challenge, to write your first novella? Do you have an end goal in mind?
I want to get to the point where I can be a writer and make money off of my writing. I want to get to the point where I think not just that though. Like I said before, something that's very ambitious is I want to sort of change the way that we write about characters. So much of what's written is very he, she, you get one box or the other. And something that I've come across in just existing as a non-binary person in this world is how much English teachers are not willing to recognize me as neither, and they'll stand behind grammar for it.
Yeah.
They'll say like, oh, well, it's not technically correct. And it's like you're hiding behind grammar in order to like make me choose a box just for your own comfort. And I don't think that's something that we have to put up with anymore.
Yeah, and the irony that grammar snobs will simultaneously worship Shakespeare, who made up all these words, and criticize people for trying to adapt language to today's time, and that like cognitive dissonance is just like,
it's like, what?
Yeah,
can't have it both ways.
You don't realize what you're actually doing. Like, you don't realize what you're real. Yeah, I'm really excited to see that too, because I think the only way to make it happen is just keep doing it and just saying, well, we're not gonna stop. So
right, as of right now, I know that there's a lot of people who would feel seen being written, for just seeing characters being written as without knowledge of how they identify, as being seen as they before even like being addressed in a certain way. And that way we can also explore like when someone does say, I use these pronouns, they can look a completely different way. And that for me meshes with my first-rate experience of being a non-binary person, being a trans person, is that the people that I'm looking at often like don't have the pronouns that someone would assume them to have. And, you know, in books that's never reflected. That's just like not a thing that I ever see. And even in like third person limited, where like you don't necessarily, where the person who is writing doesn't necessarily know everything about all of the characters, but their pronouns are still assumed.
Right.
So, you know, I'm the way that I see it is like I'm starting on this now so that in 20 years, you know, other writers who have read my works are able to point to this and go like, no, this is something that can be done. This is something that I can do.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of excuses of it's too hard or this or that, and just takes a little creativity and thought. And I'm excited to see you prove that it's not as hard as you think it is,
right?
And it can be done. Yeah.
There's just a couple of rules, right? Like just don't assume what a character's gender is first. And then like, I mean, that's first and foremost the biggest one. Like, just don't assume what that character is until they introduce it.
Let the character decide.
Yeah.
That's interesting. Because I mean, a lot of authors say that the characters write themselves. Sometimes they say that they don't have any control of what their characters do, yet they're still projecting a gender on them. I'm like, how can both of those be true?
Right.
Is your character its own character, or did you make it up? I'm like, I don't know. Yeah. Interesting. Like, sometimes I say things and I don't know if they make sense, so hopefully that made sense.
That made sense. That made sense.
So in your own personal reading literature world, what kind of genres do you enjoy reading? What kind of authors do you enjoy? And which kind of authors and stuff are you pulling inspiration from?
I am a huge fan of horror, thriller. I always have been, looking back. Like R.L. Stine's Goosebumps series, I read all of those when I was a kid. I am a huge fan of the series of unfortunate events with the Baudelaire orphans by Lemony Snicket. And as I'm like growing into some of my favorite authors, I've noticed that like Stephen King is one that really hits the spot. I know that that's a cliche, but I don't care. The way that he is able to write, not to have flowery prose, but to get a point across and to convey experience, is to me one of the most inspiring things. Yeah. So I would say those three for sure. And I'm also a huge fan of poetry when done, you know, when done in a way that like I really appreciate. So one of my favorite authors that exists now is Alok Vaid Menon, who is like a poet, beat poet, comedian, thinker, who is just like breaking down the gender binary all the time. Cool. It's so cool. So cool.
It's just such a cool time to see all these new artists out there. I know I keep coming back to that, but just like really seeing people just live their lives with no regret, really. Like, and anytime we talk to, non-binary artists or queer artists, we ask like about it. They're like, yeah, it's been hard, but I don't regret it. And that's just like, that's the biggest thing to hold on to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do it the hard way and you won't regret it. Oh, that's wild. Wild. So when it comes to you spent a lot of time writing music back in your early career. I know you're still doing that, still an active part of your life, but you're also doing a lot more literature, stories, poetry. Have you noticed a big difference in writing music versus more literature-based art?
I would say the biggest difference is conciseness. When it's something that makes me really grateful to come from a songwriting background, is how concise I have to make it. Because when you're writing a song, you only get this many beats to say something, right? So there's that. I think that something that like kind of crosses between the two of them is poetry. Poetry is music and poetry is literature. They both tell a story, just in very different ways. And sometimes I've noticed that it's just historically a way to let in our listeners on that it's a piece of art, is the rhyming structure. Like that seems to be the tell, the wink. Like I'm telling you a story right now.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and something that you had mentioned before was a lot of fantastic music with the best lyrics. They literally are stories.
Exactly. You mentioned
The Boxer.
The Boxer, absolutely, by Paul Simon. And I mentioned Maxwell's Silver Hammer, which is a horror story, by the Beatles. There's a lot of good examples of that. Like some of my own writing has been storytelling, really.
Fred Jones Part 2 by Ben Folds.
Ben Folds is great at storytelling in his writing, absolutely. It's almost like a journal,
Yeah. Yeah, and he's one of my favorite lyricists.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big reason why, is I think the story behind it, behind everything he does.
Yeah, Regina Spektor is also a really good one for that.
Oh, reason. Yes. Yeah. We could just let's just list
forever.
Another hour. Well, let's be our favorite artist. Let's just talk about everybody we love.
For the next...
Speaking of talking about people that we love, do you have any suggestions on how we as, content viewers and consumers can continue supporting you, but also other independent artists, and maybe specifically non-binary or disabled independent artists who might have a much harder time getting into this world of art and music and writing?
First thing I would say is wear a mask. Like, it doesn't matter if you feel silly, just do it. It tells people that you care about their well-being. The people who are looking for those masks, it tells them that you care. It also literally keeps them safe. I would say another thing is to be sure to coffee subscriptions, or Ko-fi. I'm not really sure how it's pronounced. Ko-fi is a great way to support independent artists, as well as Patreon. Both of those allow members to own their craft and expand into whatever ways they need to, without having to do the same thing over and over and over again, as it has been done in the past with a lot of bigger labels and things like that. Even just $5 a month makes a huge difference. Huge difference. Another thing is, if you can't afford to do that, reaching out and talking to your favorite artists. And I'm over here. That's okay. It's going at the ghost. There we go.
Keeps things interesting.
Another way to support artists, if you can't like fiscally do so, is reaching out to the artist and being like, this is how your art has impacted me. This is what it makes me think of. This is how it makes me feel, you know, and just starting that conversation. It's, yes, we have to feed our stomachs, but that's a great way to feed our hearts, is by just telling us, starting that conversation about how it impacted you.
Yeah, that's something that I've noticed lately about, you know, now that communication has become more accessible, there is that like that desire to hear back and to have that relationship and that bond and to know if what we're doing is actually doing anything or not, or you know, how can I do this more, and yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, even just letting people know that you love what they do is just such a, just like, oh, well, I guess I should keep doing it then, huh?
Right? It's big. It's big.
Yeah.
And like being a fan kid for that person, if you don't like have the money to spare, or even if you do, like telling other people about this song here that made you feel a certain way, or this piece here that you think is absolutely adorable that would look great on them, or, you know, this piece of writing that made them walk away and keep thinking about it. Like these are all like just continuing the conversation, essentially.
Yeah. That's actually one of the biggest ones too, because I don't know, whenever we talk about what we're doing and why we're doing it, it's like the end result is like we just want to reach people, and we want to maybe make them smile if we can, or at least make them frown a little less if that's possible. And
Totally.
It's just like that's the biggest thing, you know.
Absolutely.
Yep. Let's see. Oh, this was a little fun one. What? Because I know you've done both. What have you noticed for you is the biggest difference between pursuing an artistic career? I put like career, and when I say like hobbies, I put it in quotes because it's such a weird concept of like commodifying our art and just selling it to live.
So weird.
But the biggest difference for you in pursuing an artistic career versus like working a desk job or a more classic structured job.
What's the difference?
Or like how does that like for you? What is the difference for you? Like
I would say soul more than anything else. I wake up excited to get the day started and to do what I'm passionate about and what I want to do, versus feeling like soul sucked, like my time doesn't belong to me, my interests don't belong to me, because like after a long day after a long day of working, I don't feel like, yeah, I've had to be there. I'm lucky at this point to be able to be at the point where my wife is providing the majority of the income and that we're stable. It was distinctly possible that like we just definitely discussed having to get divorced so that I could get government assistance for being disabled. Like it's incredible how few rights we allow disabled people to have. So I'm in a truly privileged position to be able to say this. That's all I'm trying to say. Is that like jobs that only work toward the bottom line are soul sucking. They do not care. I don't care what company it is. They do not care about the person who is working that job. They only care about the job being worked and the bottom line. And ultimately, being used like that, like a cog in a machine, is soul sucking, deadening, depressing. It is isolating. and that's what it's meant to do.
Yeah, I definitely feel that, especially the part where you said, both of us are very lucky that we're able to pursue interests that don't, or pursue the things that we love. Even though I am still working a full-time job, I am lucky that I can afford to do this other thing that I love, and I just, I think it's important that we do take advantage of the fact that we can do it, because it's, I only did it because I saw other people doing it, and I was like, well, maybe I can at least do something. And it is incredibly hard, even just starting to do something outside of what we have to do to just get by, much less being able to.
Absolutely. Like when I was essentially working 2 jobs because I was working full time. And like at the time when I was at the height of my music career, and I was like doing that during the day, and then I'd come home, I'd like maybe take a nap if I could, and then I would get all dressed up, and then I would go out until the bars closed, performing music and making connections and being a part of the music scene, and then getting up way too early and doing it all over again. And I did it for the majority was because like music and art, doing art in general, and the people that it connects me with gives me this energy and this flow and these emotions, energy in motion, that I wouldn't otherwise be able to have access to. So yes, it takes extra energy, and it also gives extra energy to like be able to do those things in the first place, when there's that passion for it, when there's that love for it.
Yeah, we definitely shouldn't have to kill ourselves pursuing what we love, but I'm glad that you were able to balance those things and do it, because look at you now, and so it's just like so totally worth it, even if it's a freaking gnat in here flying in my face.
Say that again. Say that again.
There was a gnat flying in my face. A bug. It's gone now.
Okay.
The bug is gone. But yeah, that was pretty much it. Yeah, so I guess we're nearing the end here. I do have just a few more quick questions for you. I know we kind of mentioned it a little, but do you have any words specifically for fellow artists? Maybe ones that are at the beginning stage where they haven't even referred to themselves as an artist yet. Maybe they haven't even gone to their first open mic night. Maybe they have, and none of their friends showed up. Anything there that you can say?
Been there. I can definitely say, well, first of all, that it took me a long time to get to the point where I was able to consider myself an artist. I thought that an artist looked a certain way, or that they acted a certain way, or that they participated in their art a certain way. And it wasn't until I was actually actively doing it and realized that like, oh yeah, no, this is actually how artists work. Like this is how they do their thing, is by just doing it. That I felt comfortable calling myself an artist. So simply by doing, you are an artist. I would also say that there is no right way to do any of it. That you do not have to be in a studio to record your music. Having been in a studio and having been out of it, it really just depends on what kind of sound you're going for, more than anything else. And your art does not have to be a certain way to be loved. And if you're making it so that it makes money, then cool. If you're making it so that it is there for other people when they need it, cool. For whatever reason that you're doing it, it doesn't have to be a certain way. Zoom in on the ghost. It does not have to be a certain way for it to be art. It does not have to be a certain way for it to be loved. And just do it. Like, just art. Just art. Yeah.
Fake it till you make it.
There's that saying.
The important thing is just making it.
The important thing is just making it. Yeah, exactly. Whatever it takes to get you there.
How about a message for your fans? The sunshines. Sorry, the bug came back. I had to swat it. A message for your sunshines.
Oh, yes. I would say a message to my sunshines, more than anything, is thank you for sticking with me all of these years, and for however long you've been a part of the community. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a part of something bigger than yourself, and for believing in me even when I don't believe in myself all the time. Thank you for being there with me. And we are in for a ride.
Yay!
Yeah.
It's gonna be so exciting.
Yeah, I'm so excited.
Rae, where can we find all of this? I know you mentioned the story that has been published, The White Dot. Where can we find your music? Just for those who don't know yet.
You can find my music at my website, raynotlydia.com. Anything that I've previously put out. You can honestly find anything new that I'm doing now. Any of the things that I mentioned earlier, like the single that I'm putting out with my producer, the published works that I'm putting out, the unpublished short stories that I share, any poetry and visual art that I come out with at my Patreon, Rae Not Lydia. So patreon.com/Rae Not Lydia is the way to go. That is the way to follow me. I have only two tiers. It's $1 and $5 because I do not expect a lot right now. I just want participation. That's it.
Yep.
So yeah, give what you can.
It's a loving community to join, so I definitely suggest if you want to find people that are awesome to talk to, then anyone in Rae's little sphere is going to be fun to chill with.
Oh, so, I have the best people. I have the best people. Like, no kidding. No kidding.
The funniest, the most caring, the most quirky people, and it's just so exciting to just people being themselves. It's nice and just
it's so quality.
Yeah, it is cool. I've already met people through you, not even just ever since COVID, and not really being around people in person, just like meeting people through people who just other artists who we have nothing in common in which direction we go, but just
art,
befriending other artists is so important, I think, too.
I think so too.
And the fans, and well, yeah, thank you all so much for coming here and listening. Thank you, Rae, for answering all of these very hard questions that I put together for you.
They were so fun.
I had a great time, for sure.
Thank you for asking these. This has been so much fun. And please tell our viewers where they can find your art.
Oh, yes. Once again, I am Chls. I am over at onionchampion.com. That's where you can find links to my social media. I'm on Instagram. I'm Onion Champ. But yeah, Onion Champion, that's me. You can find what I sell, the art that I make. I also have my community called Queer Fibers of queer fiber artists who, just want to hang out with each other and not fight about which stitches are for men. But yeah, thank you all so much for being here with us. I hope you all had a great time because I know I sure as hell did.
Breve Mike, it was so good to see you. I'm so thankful that you tuned in, and I owe you $6.
Yeah, I'll give you $6 too to make up for the 12 minutes of waiting.
Absolutely.
Hey, 12 minutes isn't bad, I'd say.
Nah.
Now let me drink my ketchup.
Nice. So good to see you. I'm so thankful. Oh my gosh, there it is. Oh, okay. I wanted to see if there's any. Do you sometimes hear music to go with prose written by others? Yeah, sometimes I do. Sometimes, the weirdest thing was Brandon Sanderson wrote Rhythm of War, and I was able to hear the music through the novel.
That's so cool.
That was
I think
wild
that would be
to me.
a really interesting project is to write the music to some sort of prose like that and see what that sounds like.
Definitely. Which painting? I don't know. I'm sorry. There's the one, there's the really cool one. That one there that I know that I shared with you guys. And then there's that one back there that I have yet to get framed. I think that's what we were talking about. I wanted to make sure there were answers there. So thanks so much, Mike. I appreciate you coming in.
That was a lot of fun. I hope Mike enjoyed it.
Yeah, I hope so too. Alrighty, well, thank you everybody for coming, and we will see you next time on Ketchup with Rae and Chls. And next time, I'm probably going to be asking Chls the questions. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
It'll be so much fun. Put you in the hot seat. Alrighty. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
I'm gonna, just stop all the stuff now.